Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. So for today's episode, we want to talk about one of the most frequently asked questions from accounting or the AP team. How can I generate the AP invoices from a fully received PO or a partially received PO? So to answer this question, a couple of things we want to highlight or review at the beginning. So let's go through the agenda for this session. So first point, we want to see a high-level business process review on the P2P, right, procurement. And then from there, we can see why actually the AP team is going to ask this question. And then after that, once we understand the why, we can further analyze how we can achieve that from Dynamics F&O standard functionalities. So generate AP invoices from a fully received PO. So that's first scenario. And then second scenario is how to generate that invoice from a partially received PO. So having said that, let's get started with the high-level business process review. So let's just take an example. Let's say I'm working for the ABC company, and that company is going to order some laptops for their employees, right? And to achieve that, what they need to do at the first step is to agree on the purchasing terms, which vendor ABC company is going to choose, and what's the total quantity of that purchase, and what's the unit price, etc. So for that part, we'll call it step 1, which is purchase order creation with all the terms we just talked about, right? And which team is going to handle that purchase order creation? So that's normally the procurement team. They will manage the negotiation with the vendor and talk about the terms, and once they agreed on a specific term, then they will come back into maybe Dynamics as a system to enter that purchase order. So now we have our purchase order created, confirmed, and the procurement team is going to send out that PO confirmation to the vendor just to make sure we all align on the terms and the pre-discussed points. So with that PO created, next step, the vendor is going to prepare this order, and then they're going to ship all the items that ABC company has ordered, right? So that's part of the product receipt step. So once they shipped out the items, ABC company is going to receive that in the warehouse. So for the product receipt step, basically it's another team who is going to handle that. So obviously that's your warehouse stuff. They will manage to check like the PO creation, how many items have been ordered, and then what's the number that we have received at a warehouse. And now let's say items are received, all good. And next step is going to have your AP team, accounts payable, or your accountant to generate that invoice. So basically the vendor is going to send out an invoice to let you know, okay, now we shipped your item and you own us 10 laptops, so total 10,000, and they're waiting for a payment from the ABC company. So your accountant or AP team, once they receive that invoice from the vendor, seeing that total amount of 10,000, they need to record that in the system. So in F&O, basically generating an invoice from this purchase order. So obviously that's your AP team. And then final step, once they check that, okay, we have ordered 10 items, received the 10 items, and now on the invoice is also showing up as 10 items with a total price, then I'm good to pay you as a vendor, right? So basically with that, you have the final step, which is vendor payment. And it's also handled by your AP clerk, that group, or sometimes it can also be an accountant. So you see this high-level process, it will really involve different team members. So why the AP team is going to ask that question, like how can I generate that invoice? How do I know what product has been received and what is ready for me to generate that invoice? So two things. One is that your AP team is going to receive an invoice from the vendor, right? And they need to find out in the system the receipt recorded for this purchase order so they can continue and match the total quantity and total price. But you have to communicate between your warehouse team and AP clerk to know on this invoice I received from the vendor, where can I find my purchase order? So that's basically the question. And to answer that, there are two scenarios, as we said, for fully receive the PO or partially receive the PO. So this is really normal or very common process. We have to teach the AP team how they can do that. So with that, now I'm going to do a quick demo to show you in the system how we can manage that. So in my environment, let's say I will need to access to my purchase order, right? And let's talk about first scenario when I fully receive that item. And I'm going to do accounts payable. And under this purchase order section, you have one item called purchase orders received but not invoiced, right? So you don't necessarily need to send out an email to your warehouse team to say, what are the POs that you have received today? So you can basically come here as an AP clerk to check all the fully received purchase orders. So just one thing to remember, in this screen, you will find only the fully received purchase orders. The partial received ones will not show up here. We'll talk about that in the second scenario. So just for the scenario, let's say we have an example of this 226 purchase order from air carrier, right? And the status is received. So now I know, okay, I have this purchase order and it matches my invoice that I received from the vendor. So basically you can check that from either the purchase order number, or you can also check the vendor account to locate this specific purchase order. And from there, you can continue under this invoice section, just generate that invoice right away from here and just follow the normal invoice generation process, right? By giving an invoice number, doing your two-way or three-way matching, and then maybe go through a workflow, post the invoice. So that's basically the process. Let's just give a minute, right? So for it to open up, now you have this very familiar invoice generation screen. You can give an invoice number. I'll just put it, the PO number here. And then you can see the total quantity, unit price, and do your matching, etc. And then when you're ready, then you can post this invoice. Right? So we will not further talk about invoicing. For this session, it's more focusing on how you can find that specific purchase order. So we talked about the fully received scenario. Now we can talk about the partial received scenario. So let me go back and I'm going to show you an example. I created a purchase order. So in this list, let's see. I have ordered some laptop. Let me find that purchase order number. So that should be contains 475. Let's see if we can find that. Right. So I ordered some office supplies from Acme. And on this purchase order, you can see I ordered Surface Pro. And overall, I have 5 quantity, unit price 1,000, right? And the PO number is this 475. So if we follow the previous scenario using this purchase order received but not invoiced, you're not going to find it because it's not showing up for the partially received POs. So let's see, I will just type 475. It won't find anything. And in this scenario, how the AP team will be able to find that purchase order and continue the invoicing process. So what we recommend to use now is under the procurement and sourcing module, you have kind of a form called open purchase order lines. So when I click on that, it gives you also the details with the purchase order number. If you have that number on your invoice show up, you can check that, or you can also filter by your vendor accounts. So in my scenario, I know my vendor account is Acme. That information is available for your AP team. So that person can filter on this and see, okay, I have my purchase order 475 with total Surface Pro, total quantity 5. And then now you can also see, okay, I ordered 5 and then deliver remainder 3. So I have received 2. And of course, if you need more details, you can go to this purchase order tab just to check the status. But now let's go back to this overview tab. Right? And here Once I locate this purchase order, there is a hyperlink on your PO, right? You can just click on that, and that brings you directly to your purchase order. And same thing, you can go under invoice and just generate that invoice, right? This is one way of doing that. Another way, if you know which vendor, you can also go through your vendor master, right? I can go back to my accounts payable, find all vendors, and then from there, I can filter on my vendor account. I know, okay, this is for Acme. Once I click on that, you have on the top a section called procurement. And under procurement, you can find product receipt, right? So basically it shows up all the receipts specific to this vendor. And in my case, you can find easily that purchase order with the receipt number. And of course, on the lines, you can also check the details, ordered 5, received 2. And the purpose is also to use this PO hyperlink. Click on that, and then that brings you back to the PO for you to continue your invoicing process. Right, so that's basically very easy, straightforward, but the AP team needs to know in case of partial receipt where they can go to find a specific purchase order and continue their invoicing process. Right, so that's it for today's episode. I hope this is helpful, and feel free to comment if you have any other good suggestions or any other topics you want to review, and happy to talk soon. Thank you, everyone.